after a SummerSlam that has everybody raging, we get a Raw tonight that was so shit. You can actually hear, pause, you can actually hear Bayley saying, "Nah, I'm good, I'll stay on NXT." Oh yes. What's going on, guys? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz, Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here in the middle of this barrage of wrestling. I've done the math. If you follow out to CWC this week from TakeOver, that's 13 straight hours of wrestling in 5 straight days. And it's, if you look all over the YWC, if you look on Twitter, on Facebook, the entire wrestling world is tired. I mean, some of the things that happened at SummerSlam, some of them I'll talk about tonight, they don't help matters any. This Raw tonight definitely doesn't help matters any, but I think you guys will agree with me that we are all fucking tired. Also, shitty Raw. You guys saw my review of, or you hopefully saw my review with the Black Cat Feline over on her channel of TakeOver Brooklyn, which was phenomenal. Phenomenal show. Also, if you go over to her channel, we also did a review of the movie Suicide Squad, which was also a lot of fun. So big shout out to her. You know, spent a lot of my weekend doing reviews of various things with Black Cat Feline. If you don't know Black Cat Feline, go check her out on YouTube. She deserves a lot more subs than she has. I was going to do a Raw review, and then she wasn't available to do it. Or sorry, not a Raw review, a SummerSlam review with her and possibly Guapo. She said she wasn't available. I didn't bother asking Guapo, because by the time the conversation was happening, I was saying, fuck it, and I was several Smirnoffs to the wind. At that point, it's a good thing I took today off work, is it not? I'm not excited. I mean, I'm not even going to pretend. This Raw, this Raw. Watching the pre-show, I'm just not, guys. I'm sorry. I see a couple of potential good things on the horizon, but they're not enough to... I just don't know. I just don't know. Watch the pre-show. We got the official announcement that Balor was injured at SummerSlam, and he's going to be out for 6 months, and he's going to be relinquishing the Universal title tonight, which means he had a title run of 1 day. I will give the guy credit. You guys know I'm a big fan of Finn Balor. I think they're going to overexpose the demon gimmick on Raw, but you see the point in the match, and I didn't notice this at the time, where he gets thrown up against the wall, and he dislocates his shoulder, and just puts it back in like it's fucking nothing. Continues the match. Immense respect for Finn Balor and Seth Rollins for a great match at SummerSlam. I do have a separate video to do at some point later this week about the Universal Championship and the Brooklyn crowd, and some comments that were made by Finn Balor and Mick Foley, actually, that were published all over No DQ and a bunch of other places. I'm sure most of you that watch my videos have seen it. I have some thoughts on that, and that's fit for a separate video. They rehashed the video between Lesnar and Orton, which is all fine and good. We have Rusev and Lana on Skype, which you guys know how I feel about the Skype gimmick on the pre-show. It never comes off great. It always comes off a little hacky. It always comes off as the visual equivalent of a guy walking around with his cell phone saying, "Can you hear me now?" But they do say some good shit here. They point out all the stuff that Roman Reigns has done, which sort of reinforces my point of how the hell is Rusev the heel in this scenario. They take a shot at Roman Reigns' wife, who's apparently pregnant in real life. So that's interesting. We get the announcement that the Dudleys are leaving, which I retweeted on Twitter earlier today, and we get one match announced. We're going to get Big E versus Carl Anderson. Woo! All right. We start off the show. They introduce Balor. He gets huge "you deserve it" chants, which he does. Talks about, you know, winning the title, what the title meant to him, rah-de-rah-de-rah. A lot of "thank you, Finn" chants, which is also cool. I have to hand it over now, but I will be back. And he makes it almost up the ramp when, predictably, Seth Rollins' music hits. They have a stare down on the ramp. They're going to have a match later on down the line. all that sort of thing. Rollins comes out, says it's a pity, but we have to leave in the past. He trolls the fans super hard about what are we going to do with this glorious, beautiful, perfectly crafted belt, which is nice, I guess. Says he should be champion. He was one of the number 1 contenders. The other one just left because he's injured. Says he should be the champion. Sami Zayn, of all people, comes out. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. We're going to get a program between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, which I wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. You put the belt on one fan favorite in Finn Balor. You use Seth Rollins to garner some heat. Put the heat on Sami Zayn. Put the belt on another fan favorite, which is cool. Sami Zayn doesn't get to say anything, though, however, because he's just the first in a long parade of just... You guys know the term I use very rarely. It's the pile of people, because out comes Jericho, out comes Owens, out comes Enzo and Cass, out comes Roman Reigns, and the crowd in Brooklyn, looking at all the talent in the ring, and I know people have mixed opinions of Enzo and Cass, but the rest of them, Roman Reigns, you know, is a good... He's a top guy, I'll give him that. Owens is great, Jericho's fucking fantastic right now, and Sami Zayn is the new Daniel Bryan. What does the crowd chant? The crowd chants "We want Slater." Fuck me, and fuck me a lot, and fuck you, Brooklyn. Stephanie tells us there's going to be a series of matches. How's this for a vague statement? There's going to be a series of matches that culminate next week. No further subtext, no nothing. But the first match of the night is Rollins versus Sami Zayn, which we've seen before, which we know is great. This whole Raw, with the odd exception, is centered around ex-NXT talent, which is fine, but it's also funny, because people were saying, oh, you know, why don't we just bring in Big E and Bo Dallas and just get all the former NXT champions, which they weren't that far off from doing, let's be real. But we've got Rollins versus Zayn as our first match. There's a stare down between Zayn and Owens before everybody else leaves the ring, because of course there is. It's Zayn and Owens. They had their last match 2 months ago. How long before these guys have another last match or another series of matches? I'm surprised they didn't give the best of 7 series to Zayn and Owens. We'll talk about that later on. But the match starts with Rollins jumping Zayn before the match even starts. He gives him a beatdown, gives him a couple knees in the back as we go to commercial break. We come back. The match proper has started. Chops by Zayn, corner chops and a head scissor. They trade punches on the outside. Guardrail moonsault by Zayn, super kick in the ring by Rollins, and a mudhole stomp. Back elbow by Rollins, who rides aside headlock. The Irish whip by Rollins, and some more corner chops. Rolling clothesline by Zayn. Botch fucks up Zayn's leg. He comes off the top rope. I was writing, so I had to go back and watch this again. He fucks up his leg. Now, here's the deal. They played it up. He fucked up his ankle. So one of 2 bad things is going to happen here. Either he's injured for real, so you can throw him on top of the list with Samoa Joe with his fucking dislocated jaw, Randy Orton with his fucking sliced open head, Sasha Banks with her fucked up back that I wish I could take credit for, but I can't, you know, giggity and all that. You know, Seth Rollins just relinquished the title because of his shoulder, and now Sami Zayn's going to be out because of his ankle. Or it's a work, and they're going to make Seth Rollins' gimmick that people get hurt in the ring with him, which is terrible and sounds like it was written by Bret Hart. Oh, yes. I heard later on in the night that it was written that Sami Zayn's botch was part of the match, and it's all good. Dumps Rollins out, somersault out of the ring by Zayn. Top rope knee strike by Rollins, which is a pretty move, let's be real, but then again, that's the move that rearranged John Cena's face. He rearranged the face that runs the place with that knee, did he not? We go to commercial break. We come back. They're trading forearms. They're trading punches. There's a takedown by Rollins, a lariat by Zayn. They trade some more punches because reasons. Enziguri by Rollins, corner chops and forearms by Zayn. Zayn, I will give him credit, but now that we know that this was a work, sold his ankle like it was real. That's a thing. Second rope sunset flip powerbomb by Zayn was pretty. Exploder into the corner by Zayn like he does. Knee lift by Rollins. Modified ankle lock by Rollins. And a pedigree gets the win for Rollins. Obviously, Rollins is going to stay in the title picture. Kevin Owens is up next, where he needs to qualify for the culmination next week that has never really been explained. So you figure Kevin Owens, big popular guy, he's in the world title picture, he's going to be up against he's up against fucking Neville, isn't he? Neville ain't a world champ. He was in a thrown together tag team match on the pre-show last night. Neville ain't, so you know who's going to win. I could have believed Sami Zayn was going to win the first match. That's the kind of thing I like. Neville ain't winning this. So Owens wins. There's some distractions by Jericho, which makes Owens look like a jobber because he needs help to beat a jobber like Neville. Oh yes. And then we get the announcement that for the rest of the night, we're going to get Rusev versus Big Cass. For reasons. Yeah. And Roman Reigns versus Jericho, which is clearly going to be the main event. And the 4 winners are going to face in a fatal 4-way next week. Now, I don't like this at all. I wish they did 2 more matches and then 1 final match. There have been, and I have said this before in videos, way too many multiple person matches. We've had way too many triple threats, fatal 4-ways in the past little while. We did the Shield thing. That's understandable. There was a story behind it. There was a story between those 3 guys. The 6-way match that they did on SmackDown, the 4 ways that they did on the inaugural Raw after Battleground. I don't understand. It would have been easier for them to book next week if they could fill 3 segments. Here's this match, here's this match, here's the final match. Everybody goes home happy. I mean, you could do something like this out to the next pay-per-view, you know, make your first Clash of Champions pay-per-view seem cool, but fuck it, why not? New Day come out and they thank the fans, and Big E dances in a very non-PG manner, and I officially don't care about the New Day. That's just a thing. The Club come out, they point out how dumb all of this is. They ask them why they're celebrating, seeing as they lost last night by disqualification. Pointed out because they won by disqualification, they will get a title shot down the line, and all the props and jokes in the world will not be able to save you when we come again for your tag team titles. Which is the truest thing that has been said so far tonight. Big E versus Anderson. Yay! Overhead belly to belly by Big E in an abdominal stretch. Corner spear by Big E. Kick to the leg by Anderson. Knee drop to the knee by Anderson in a front face lock. Knee drop to the knee by Anderson again in a mud hole stomp. At least, if nothing else, if the doctor smocks and unicorn horns and jars of eggs and piñatas and all that shit can be set aside, at least there was some awesome, decent dissecting psychology done by Anderson working on Big E's leg. That's good. Big E tosses Anderson out of the ring from a suplex position, which was pretty cool. Goes like he's going to do a vertical suplex, but instead of going all the way up, carries him in the suplex position to the outside and dumps him. That, you know, it's a show of strength thing. It's not particularly pretty, but for Big E just being back and he's the power guy and whatever. Gallows and Kofi Kingston and Woods all brawl on the outside. High knee by Anderson, but Big E gets up miraculously and hits the big ending. He gets the I just returned from an injury win here, doesn't he? I don't want to talk about it again, so I'll talk about it now. Jon Stewart and Big E's return and all the other bullshit and the Dr. Smocks and the jars of eggs and all that. The entire title match at SummerSlam, the entire tag team title match at SummerSlam can fuck itself. Yes. Speaking of things that can go fuck itself, Titus O'Neil comes out and bitches about stuff for reasons and nobody cares at all. Tries to make... I have a tweet. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it. Give me a second, guys. I have a tweet that somebody sent me. I have to find it now. Bear with me. I'm super professional, as you guys know. He bitches about stuff, and he tries to make us care about the rivalry with him and O'Neil. Backlund comes out by himself and tries to take on Titus O'Neil. Titus O'Neil, who's this big bad monster, gets locked in a chicken wing by old-ass Bob Backlund, and then he kicks the shit out of Backlund, and then he kicks the shit out of Darren Young. So there you go. Mark Lawrence on Twitter, @RealMLawrence, says, @Spaz Phoenix, that was painful, like a kid in school being a shit reader and having to read Shakespeare. I can't sum it up any better than that, guys. I really can't. It was shit. And because they have a Raw pay-per-view that's going to be only the Raw roster and they need something to fill the slots, I'm terrified that we're going to get stuff like this on pay-per-view and they're going to try and convince me that it's pay-per-view worthy when neither one of these guys individually, or even if they put them back in a tag team, are relevant at all. They are, and go ahead and call me racist if you want to. I don't give a fuck because of how inaccurate it is. They are the Naomi of Raw. That's a fact. We recap Lesnar and Orton, and we hear that we're going to get some stiff, hardcore reaction from Stephanie after the video package. Steph just looks into the camera and says, "There's going to be repercussions," and fucks off. So that was entirely pointless. Speaking of utterly pointless, we've got Rusev versus Cass. Okay, huge punches and a corner beatdown by Rusev. Cass nails body shots to the injured ribs. I will give credit where it's due. Rusev being the big guy that got the huge fucking... I don't mind what happened with Rusev and Roman. I understand Raw's first pay-per-view is going to be the Clash of Champions. You want to set up some of your championship matches. So postponing this match to the Clash of Champions to be something big on your first Raw pay-per-view is something I understand. So the beatdown and the non-match that happened at SummerSlam, I don't mind that. I think it was done well. I think it was drug out too long. But I don't think it was the most horrible decision in the world. That is one where I'm going to give them a pass. Huge punches and Rusev sells the ribs. Great. They go to commercial break. Standing sleeper by Rusev and a kick to the back of the head. Cass works on the midsection with very, very basic stuff. Running elbow by Rusev is the counter to that. Boot by Cass and 2 tackles and a corner splash, but Rusev boots down Enzo on the outside for reasons. Oh, yes. Gave a shout out to General Jerry because I know Enzo is his favorite leopard print guy. So, quick shout out to General Jerry on that one. Clothesline, corner splash, and a slam by Cass. Rusev eats the steps on the outside. Super kick by Rusev and a boot by Cass. Rusev bails and fucks off. Cass gets the win. Cass gets the win by countout, but it doesn't matter because a win is a win and a win is a win. Which means the Fatal 4-Way to determine the new main champion on Raw that was just fought over by 2 great guys like Finn Balor and Seth Rollins is now going to include Big Cass. I got nothing. And speaking of people that... if Titus O'Neil wasn't bad enough, we went from one flavor of shit to another because somebody handed a microphone to Charlotte. Dana tries to start a "You deserve it" chant, which is crazy, and my notes literally say, if you look at it right there, Charlotte talks a lot. I don't know why. Thankfully, we're saved by Foley, who congratulates Charlotte and tells her that I know you're a fighting champion, but when Sasha Banks comes back, she will be getting a shot at your title. There's some bad things about my job. The bad thing was earlier tonight when I had to get the title off of Balor and Charlotte starts making fun of Balor, which is in, incredibly bad taste. But good things are stuff like this when I welcome the newest free agent signed to Raw by myself and Stephanie, and she introduces Bayley, obviously. And Bayley and Foley do some cheap pops and some hugging. And I will say I like Bayley. You guys know I like Bayley, but I could do without Bayley on the microphone either because Bayley cuts what I've been calling on NXT the Bayley promo, where she's the lovable person, she's happy to be here, and we all like her essentially, and we all want good things for her because she's the girl next door. I could do without that. Bayley, she's showing her respect to Charlotte. I would never want to steal your spotlight. This is your night. What I will do is challenge you for your title. Now, here's the thing. They got a big cheer from the crowd, and it got a big pop on Twitter and Facebook, etc. Now, this is the hypocrisy of the YWC 101, isn't it? If this was, let's say, if Nikki Bella made her comeback and immediately got thrown into the new women's title picture on SmackDown, we'd be saying, oh, nepotism, oh, she's a gold digger, oh, she used John Cena, rah. Bayley could have had a title shot tonight. She could have done what Paige did a couple years ago after WrestleMania, walk in and beat Charlotte in 2 seconds, and nobody would have batted an eye. And that's a bit shit. It's also a bit shit because if you're a fan of Bayley, like I am, you want to see some build. You want to see her ascend to that title, not get handed it the first night so that Raw can get some ratings. This is a bunch of shit. Charlotte says as much. You don't just get to show up on here and tell us your sad story and get a title shot. You got to work your way up the ranks like I did. And thankfully, I'm not dressed to wrestle tonight, but my protege is. Points at Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke kind of gives her the what the fuck. But then again, Dana Brooke did come out in her wrestling gear, so there's that. Bottom line, Bayley's debut match is against Dana Brooke. Bayley's debut match, and this is where I say I like her. I do. She got fucked 7 ways from Sunday on this, didn't she? Because everybody's upset about the Sasha thing. Everybody's upset that Sasha's going to be gone for 30 days. Reasons to be determined later on. She's debuting in front of this Brooklyn crowd that's entirely fucking deflated from SummerSlam, entirely deflated from the show we've gotten so far tonight. Because let's be real, guys, for a second. The first match of the night was Rollins versus Zayn, and that's the best thing we got all night. Little bit of a spoiler alert. I'm going to talk about the rest of the show. Rollins, you could have watched up to the opening segment, which was shit. You could have watched Zayn versus Rollins, which was great. And you could have turned off, and you would have seen the best thing of the night. I will promise you that, right? You guys know me. I try really fucking hard to find the good shit in wrestling. Even when everybody else is taking a hot, steamy dump on it, I try to, dig through the nuggets and find one that's gold. I get told I'm too positive about the WWE, and maybe I am sometimes, but there's nothing. And the few things that there are not enough to outweigh the shit that has been given to us over the past 5 days or so. I'm sorry. NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Great. AJ versus Cena. We're going to probably talk about tomorrow night in my SmackDown review. Great fucking match. Balor versus Rollins. Except for the unfortunate thing that happened to Balor. Great match. Even what they did with Rusev and Roman. I don't personally have a problem. But there's so much shit. Jesus fucking Christ. There's so much shit. Anyways. So we got Bayley. So I go back to my point. Here's this crowd that's all deflated from a couple days of shit. Everybody's bummed about Sasha, and her debut is against Dana Brooke, who, I get it, she's, Diesel to Charlotte's Shawn Michaels, I guess, but she's not that great in the ring. But here we go. Collar and elbow tie-up and a takedown by Bayley. Drop toe hold by Bayley and a back elbow by Dana. Bayley eats the turnbuckle and so does Dana. Second rope arm drag by Bayley and a boot by Dana. Baseball slide by Dana and Bayley eats the guardrail. Modified bow and arrow submission by Dana. Looks really ugly, I'm not gonna lie. Mounted punches by Dana, and they trade some punches for a while. Corner spear by Bayley. Second rope back elbow, and the Bayley to belly get the "this is my first night on Raw" win for Bayley. We get a hype promo for CWC, which is really a hype promo for the Cruiserweight division coming to Raw, and that's fine. We get a backstage thing with Sheamus, which is another person that shouldn't have a microphone in his hand, basically hyping up the fact that round 2 of the Sheamus and Cesaro Best of 7 is next week. Now, we were scared when we heard Best of 7, because that's at least 7 weeks of 7 weeks of solid Sheamus versus Cesaro. If they're not even going to do it every week, that could be 8 weeks. Or 9 weeks, or 10 weeks, or 11 weeks of Cesaro versus the fucking chicken pirate. Get the fuck off my screen. Get the fuck off my screen. I know JD from NY206 has a series of t-shirts that's just like hashtag get off my TV. JD, I know you probably don't watch my videos, but if you do, can you please make one for the chicken pirate, aka Sheamus? Thank you. Lost my place. Of course. Strowman versus Johnny Knockout, who's a jobber, and it's a squash match. The most awkward thing in the world is Byron Saxton goes to do his, pre-match interview of the Braun Strowman victim of the week, and he says, "Why in the world would you take this match?" And he said, with a straight face, this guy looks into the camera and says, "Because I like big sweaty men." Here come those stories and storylines and characters that Stephanie McMahon was talking about in press conferences a couple weeks ago. That's all I'm saying. That's another story for another vid. Anyways, in amongst all this, you've got the goodbye of the Dudleys, which is ruined for me because if they are really leaving, I would love it to be a big, meaningful thing. I really would. Because, we don't do sentimental very well in the YWC, but there are certain moments that count for it. This whole thing, all night, and the way they've hyped it up, is like, okay, we're getting a swerve. They're either not retiring, and they're going to take out some random team and start a new feud. They're either not retiring, and Bubba Ray's going to become Bully Ray and turn on Devon. We're going to get him as a solo star, which is great. But it's always like, how can I say this? If it is sentimental, I'm not going to feel it until after the fact, which is really shitty. It's like when they do fake retirement angles. When they did the Mark Henry gimmick there where he came out in the ugly ass pink suit and he attacked John Cena and tried to be a main eventer for 5 minutes. Yeah, how did that go for you, Mark? Anyways, the Dudley Boys come out. Big loud EC-dub chant because they're in the middle of New York. They talked about their comeback last year. They talk about how the year has had ups and downs. They talk about their history. They talk a lot about the TLC matches with Edge and Christian and the Hardys. They mentioned the Hardys and get a huge pop. If they'd been in Canada, Edge and Christian would have gotten a huge pop with that. So WWE has always been our home, which is funny because they started in ECW and they spent a lot of time in TNA, but whatever. And we're lucky because not a lot of people get to go out on our own terms. They're interrupted by the Shining Stars, who say it's about time you left because you're all washed up and you're old and whatever. We got you a present. It's 2 economy flights to Puerto Rico. And we feel bad for the people that have to sit next to you, and Puerto Rico is well known for having some great retirement homes. And it's all shit. Even though they're supposed to be like the heels, they go in here, they're delivering their promo like they're gonna shit themselves. I think they chose the worst possible team to go out and do this, and basically eat a 3D, and a what's up, and a 3D through the table, and all that sort of thing. And then they get jumped by the club, which was done so badly and had literally no punch to it at all. A couple weeks ago, I said, if you're going to have a match to put the club over, they're big brawling guys, put them in against the Dudleys. I wanted this a couple weeks ago. It was done so shit, I don't care anymore. Magic Killer on Bubba, on the floor. Magic Killer on Devon, through a table. Statement made, I guess, and the segment just dies. For reasons. I just, like... This is what like, more than bad stuff that doesn't make any sense, is stuff that I could be excited about if it was done properly. And this wasn't done properly. Why the Shining Stars were there, I have no idea. You could have omitted that entirely. You could have just had them giving their final farewell, throwing up the threes and all that sort of thing, and they could have been jumped behind by the club, like the Usos were when the club originally debuted, and the first and last time they ever looked like badasses, unfortunately, because of the way they've been booked since, with the smocks and the jars of eggs and the ring post-itis and all that bullshit. It's bad when you give me something bad. It's good when you give me something I've been asking for and you fuck it up. They gave away the match SmackDown a couple weeks ago. Eva Marie doesn't show up, does us the big favor of not showing up for her match. Becky Lynch throws out the open challenge. Alexa Bliss answers. I get the match I've been looking forward to since the draft. Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss. They throw it away on a random episode of SmackDown instead of making it part of the women's title tournament, or the final of the women's title tournament. I'm sorry. Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch in the finals for the SmackDown Women's Championship could have been great. You threw it away on SmackDown. Like it was nothing. Like it was a second choice. We didn't get Eva Marie, so here, have this instead. Fuck off with that. Honestly. Roman Reigns versus Jericho is your main event, and by this point I truly, truly don't give a shit. Collar and elbow tap and a shoulder tackle by Roman, slaps by Jericho, and then he bails. Huge back elbow by... Oh, excuse me. Huge back elbow by Roman and a clothesline and a corner clothesline by Roman, and Jericho rakes the eyes and tackles Roman to the outside as we go to commercial break. Jericho chokes on the ropes, pulls the hair. He does this thing, I don't know, because you do the thing, with the guys with the long hair, you typically stand on the hair, and they do it in women's matches too, which is funny because it's Jericho and he's kind of a diva. You stand on the hair, you grab the arms, you pull it up. Well, what they did here was he stood on the hair and he grabs Roman by the ridiculous flak jacket that he still wears and tries to pull up on that. But Roman's a lot bigger than him, so he doesn't get him very far off the ground. So he does it for a few minutes, and Roman doesn't sell it, and good for him for not selling it because it looked like shit. Jericho looks at the crowd and says, "He has long hair." Yes! Where's the Captain Obvious dude from the commercials? Corner clothesline by Roman, enziguri by Jericho, drive-by by Roman, and a back elbow by Jericho. Superman punch and a sit-out powerbomb. The sit-out powerbomb that Roman Reigns has been using the past little while is fucking nice. I like it more. I don't like it when he does it from the powerbomb position, to be honest with you. I like it when he has him sort of up in the razor's edge position, because that's like a moment cocky pose type thing, and then brings him over for the it's essentially a Batista bomb, let's be real. But, you know, go from the razor's edge into the sit-out powerbomb is a little bit better, but still very nice. It's a little cleaner than the Superman punch, which looks a bit spastic sometimes, no pun intended. Owens runs down the ramp and distracts, but Roman says, fuck your distraction, hits a Superman punch, goes for a spear that gets countered into the walls of Jericho. Very messy transition. Disappointed in both guys on that one. Super kick by Owens when nobody's looking, and a code breaker by Jericho. Superman, you know, Roman gets back up, because of course not. Why not? Super kick and a code breaker would take down pretty much anybody. Roman Reigns gets back up. Superman punches Owens off the apron, gets the spear successfully this time. Roman gets the win. Next week, your match, your main event, your fatal four-way for the Universal Championship that already has 1 day of history, is Rollins versus Owens versus Big Cass for reasons versus Roman Reigns, because of course he is. The only thing I can look forward to right now on Raw at Clash of Champions is Roman Reigns versus Rusev for the US title. And that's only because we saw it last week, and we know that it was a good match. And they had, for all intents and purposes, although it wasn't a match, they had a good brawl at SummerSlam. Rusev is selling the effects of it, which is great. And this comes on the heels of the great match they had last week. So I have hope that Roman Reigns versus Rusev at the Clash of the Champions. Fuck me. Wrestling has made me tired. At the Clash of Champions, you're going to get Roman versus Rusev. And I'm predicting, against all odds, that it's going to be a good match. I'm predicting that the Dudleys are going to have a match against the Club, and the New Day are going to go dance and be idiots with the Shining Stars or something. Bayley is going to face Charlotte. That's pretty damn obvious. They're establishing the main champion next week, and I'm sure there'll be something to come out of that that'll give us a main fucking... Clash of Champions is in a month and 3 days. They got a lot of time to build it up. I mean, SmackDown has Backlash in like 2 weeks. I'm sorry, guys. This was shit. This was really shit. Go back and watch Rollins versus Zayn, but because it's really good, but it's as good as any Rollins versus Zayn match that we've seen. You could have skipped Raw. You take a snapshot of however you felt at the end of SummerSlam. It hasn't changed a damn bit. They are down so many people right now. It's fucking ridiculous. We got, whether you like them or not, here we go. No Cena. No Orton. No Sasha. No Balor. No Samoa Joe. No Eva Marie. No Paige. No Alberto Del Rio. Fuck it. I don't have the energy for this. I hope SmackDown's better tomorrow. I'll talk to you guys later.